You may recall Keith Ablow. He was a psychiatrist commentator on Fox News, but he hasn't been around in a while. And if you can remember him, you probably also remember an old clip where Cenk made this prediction.
My theory on Keith Ablow is that he's got somebody tied up in a basement.
You have said that before. You've been clear.
I'm a bad guy.
Now, I said that many times, as John referenced there. But wait to the end of this clip, because we're gonna show you one of my particular predictions in detail. Now, first, let's find out what happened to Keith Ablow.
Well, Keith Ablow is dealing with some significant allegations of sexual misconduct. He's facing lawsuits from 3 female patients who say he lured them into degrading sexual relationships, including beatings, conversations about bondage, and in one case, getting a tattoo of the doctor's initials to show his ownership of her. Now again, this is a lawsuit, these are the allegations. Nothing's been proven yet, but these are serious allegations.
Bondage.
One woman, a plaintiff who is anonymous, says he began to hit me when we engaged in sexual activities. He would have me on my knees and begin to beat me with his hands on my breasts, occasionally saying, "I own you," or "You are my slave." So again, this is pretty devastating. The allegations are pretty devastating. We'll see if there's enough evidence to prove them in a court of law. But now let's get to Cenk's part of this.
Yes, so look, we're still gonna get to the greatest prediction of all time in a second. You're gonna see it in detail. I'm not saying anything except for what I just said. But let's talk about the case first. Ablow is a terrible guy overall. He would often read Obama's body language on air. Now, that doesn't even mean anything. And if you're a psychiatrist, what does that have to do with what you're supposedly trained for? He said Michelle Obama needs to drop a few pounds. Okay.
Wow, I forgot about that.
He said Obama preferred Africa to America. And what does that have to do with anything related to psychiatry? I was always amused because they would say, here's Dr. Keith Ablow from Fox News's medical A team. And I always wondered, God damn it, who's on the medical B team? That's got to be the sorriest doctor you've ever seen in your life, right? And so, and I would talk about how he had people tied up. And I would say, hey, look, man, it's what I'm guessing. You'll see why I said that in a minute. And in this case, not only did he do the things allegedly that Anna talked about, but he would also apparently take off his belt and use it to strike some of the women that he was having sexual relations with when they were his either employees or his clients, which is, I mean, I don't
beyond
know what's
unethical.
worse. I mean, it's immediate, if proven, immediately thrown out of the medical practice. And by the way, the woman said this belt had a metal buckle with a skull on it. The employee said they were concerned that Dr. Ablow would book appointments for late in the day when nobody else was around, and that he would look for women who were attractive, but quote, sad and lonely, struggling with past trauma, and make sure, and he often also used ketamine in several of the cases, which leads patients to be more sedated and have memory loss. I mean, it's just the worst of the worst in terms of the allegations. So now, before there was an allegation from one woman in Minnesota, and now there are 3 people who he gave so-called treatment to, and now several workers that worked underneath him as well testifying, yes, he did this. There's a sexual harassment, he slept with some of the women, and then the others are worried about the ketamine, the others were worried about when he scheduled it and who he targeted, okay? One of the women who worked for him said that he pointed a gun once. Another one that was a client said he would talk about his gun and imply threats that if anybody were to reveal anything, that he would do far worse, okay? So it appears a terrible guy. Now, this is what we know today. Back in the day, we didn't know that. I'm gonna show you an old clip and you'll see the date on it, I believe. And here was my original prediction on Keith Ablow.
I think Keith Ablow is secretly a dangerous guy. I don't mean for the foolish opinions he throws out there. That's comedy gold. He's got danger in his eyes, man. Look, I'm partly kidding, when I say he's got someone locked up in a basement somewhere. But I'm gonna do a crazy prediction here. I don't know if it's in 1 year, 10 years, but at some point when the Young Turks are still on air, I'm gonna come out here, I'm gonna find this old tape, and I'm gonna play it for you guys. Keith Ablow is gonna get arrested at some point. He's doing something wrong to somebody. There's something in his eyes where I'm like, no, that guy's like a disciplinarian. There's something, there's somebody in a basement somewhere.
I remember when you would make those predictions and I would get super uneasy because obviously you're clear with the audience that you're speculating, but still it's such a, I'm gonna keep it real. I think reckless type of speculation that I would refrain from, right? But you did not, you decided to go for it. And I don't know, like what tipped you off? What was it that tipped you off?
No, look, the funny thing is, he has nonsense body language interpretation, etc. And that's why I'm saying I'm half kidding in that clip. You got a sense of what I really meant. And I said the prediction, I flat out said it, right? And you could tell from the way he talks, what he says, and partly his demeanor, like he has those crazy eyes. And
come on, tons of people have crazy eyes.
No, he has a look of, and I don't mean physically, of course not, like who cares what you look like physically? I mean, the way he conducted himself, like there was an air of he needed to be in control. It wasn't just based on looking at a picture, it was looking at all the videos we were subjected to with Keith Ablow saying outrageous, ridiculous things. And when female hosts would talk to him, he would have a dismissive attitude towards them.
I know, but it's Fox. I mean,
I know that's true too.
But
no, but it seemed that he needed to control the situation, especially when women were involved. Okay, so as it turned out, that turned out to be correct. And if you read more into the details of the allegations, he had a woman tattoo his initials on her body because he wanted to own her, and he liked to discipline the women. And the list goes on and on of not only tying them up, but making sure that they knew he was the master in those relationships. And okay, now put aside the prediction stuff. What kind of a guy targets the most vulnerable, knowing that they're vulnerable, knowing that they're coming to him as a doctor to help them in their moment of need, and he sees that moment of need as an opportunity for him to abuse them further.
To prey on them.
Right. So there's a lawsuit and they will adjudicate what the reality of the matter is. And look, if these allegations are true, not only should his medical practice be in question, obviously, not only should he pay them massive damages, but there are significant assault allegations in here. So that should also be looked into.
Exactly, so it should be looked into, it should be adjudicated. The one thing I did want to bring up is that this is a fetish, right? And I don't know how common the fetish is, but usually it happens in the context of a consensual relationship, right? Where someone wants to have that kind of control over someone, and then there's the other person who likes to be the submissive. But if these allegations are true, he had no interest in that, right? He wanted to be in a situation where he genuinely was preying on someone who was vulnerable or who were vulnerable, and that just having that consensual type of relationship based on these allegations isn't what he was looking for. He was looking to have this dominance over people who were incredibly vulnerable and facing trauma, dealing with trauma.
And that is exactly why therapists are not allowed to sleep with their patients. And in this case, it wasn't like, oh my God, we fell in love, what could we do? He would also get them to move. So he would start on Skype and then he would start saying about how attractive they were, but that they really needed his personal touch and they needed the medication. So he would lure them in to his office, give them the ketamine, and then they would get hooked. And he said, I alone can give you the ketamine, so you have to come and do whatever I tell you to do. So it was manipulative by its very nature. So the allegations are very thorough. They're corroborated by all of the other witnesses, but we'll see what happens in court. But right now, it does not look good for Dr. Keith Ablow. He might in fact get demoted to Fox's medical B team. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below.
then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.